Hello, everyone. Welcome to the LZ Sports Show. I am one of your hosts, Mark Adam. I am joined by my partner in crime. I always say, I don't know why I say that because we haven't technically done any crimes yet, but it's Mr. Keith McKnight. We are separate, we are socially distanced. We want you to stay safe as well out there. So I'm in my own home. He is in his new home, which he just moved into. Now you've been there like a week or so. How are you finding it so far?
I love it. Settling in very nicely, so everyone's happy. Can't be any more thrilled.
Awesome. That's what I want to hear. Excellent. So all right, let's start with a word from our sponsor, and we will get rolling right after this.
Make your house a better place to come home to with Aquatech Pool, Spa, and Bath. We've been delivering complete customer satisfaction for over 40 years. Whether it's a fully completed backyard escape, a completely renovated bathroom, or a premium upgrade on outdoor furniture, Aquatech is the only name you need to know. That's because if it's an Aquatech job, it's an Aquatech team working on it. No outsourcing, no subcontractors. We do it all. Visit our one-of-a-kind showroom today at 1065 Dugald Road. Aquatech Pool, Spa, and Bath. We create better places to come home to.
Thank you to our sponsor, Aquatech Pool, Spa, and Bath. And jumping right into it, last night, the Winnipeg Jets finished up a road trip in Toronto. So they played 2 games in Montreal, played 3 games in Toronto, and they came away with a heck of a lot of points. Last night, big 5-2 victory. They played really, really good hockey, unless you count that 10 minutes in the middle of the second period. They sort of took their foot off the gas for a minute. That wasn't good. Both of Toronto's goals came in that hectic era of the game, and
Yes, sir.
back to back shots actually, which was not ideal. But for one of the first time, well, one of the first times, one of the very few times this year they've managed to outshoot their opponent, 32-22. They always lose in the face-off circle. When you look at that stat, they're always on the short end of that stick. Something interesting: more than 4 penalty minutes for each team in this game, which is something we don't see often from these guys. Toronto going 0 for 3 on the power play, and Winnipeg going 2 for 4, which actually made the difference, I think. Their power play looked really good last night. Lots of hits from the Jets, 31-15. I thought that was great. And obviously 5 different goal scorers for the 5 different goals, which is pretty great to see. 11 total players for the Jets getting points on the night. Scheifele and Appleton and Lowry all having 2-point nights. A rare 2-point night for Lowry. I really like that. 20 for 22 for Boissois. Anderson, a little less impressive, 27 for 32 with a .844 save percentage. And right now, it's rough times in Toronto, is it not?
Oh, yes, it most certainly is. And I think how we were praising Toronto and Montreal before the Jets were about to play on the spot, the Jets need to be worried. The Jets need to be worried. I know we always say that anybody can win, anybody can lose, anybody can beat anybody. But I think the Jets now have to take this opportunity to separate themselves now from all the teams in this Canadian division, because I think they're showing that they can beat just about everybody, and they're going to stay consistent, because that overtime loss that they suffered in the second game in Toronto there, I was like, okay, you know what? Like, that could have gone either way. And it even showed with the body language of the Winnipeg Jets when that game was over. They all just, got off the ice and just left it alone. They're just like, hey, who cares? Let's just get the next one. And they really showed up with, putting Toronto on their heels. And like you're saying, is it trouble in Toronto now? Yeah, it really is. Like, I asked you this before we went on air. It's like, would they make a coaching change? And you says, no, not in the midseason just because of the slump. But they're going to have to find a way to really, really get out of this losing slump that they're in. And you saw that the way that Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner were playing too, it seemed like they wanted to win yesterday, but the Jets were just like, no, this is enough. And, they came out in that third period. I was like, did 5-2? Like, it was a close game in the second period. And then boom, all of a sudden this happened. It was crazy.
Absolutely. It was a huge third period for the Jets. I mean, they recovered in that second period. They scored the first goal, and then they just sort of fell apart for 10 minutes. Then they figured it out, got that last goal. That second period was not confidence inspiring, I would say. And then they turned around and they played that game in the third period where they just decided to swarm Toronto. Toronto had no answer to what the Jets were doing in the entire third period. So Freddie Anderson was just sort of caught off guard. The Jets don't generally. How often do the Jets get over 30 shots a game? Not that often, but the shots that they do manage to get on goal are generally pretty good quality. They're high percentage shooters, shooting from high percentage places usually, and what ends up happening with the Jets is less shots means more goals, so more shots means more goals. And we saw that with the 5-2 win last night. I would like to see Toronto figure out what's wrong with them. They're 5-5-0 in their last 10. That is not a good record for somebody who, as of before last night's game, was first in the league, and after last night's game dropped to fourth by the NHL standards. And I mean, .690 in the points percentage column, not super impressive when they'd been holding a point better than a .750 record for a lot of this season. So Tampa Bay takes over that first spot in the NHL, and I'm excited to see what happens with the Jets, because now the Jets are only 4 points behind the Leafs. They have 2 games in hand, so if they win those 2 games, we're up on the Leafs. And here's the other thing. The Leafs play just 12 games this month, I think.
Yeah, this month's already flying by. We're already midway through.
I can't remember how many games the Leafs play in March, but the Jets play 17 games in March, and the Jets have 3 more games left in March than the Leafs do. So by the end of March, Toronto's going to have a game in hand on us, and hopefully we will have more points than them. That's the way that Paul Maurice is hoping this whole thing plans out. So I don't know what's going on with the Leafs, but I mean, they did run into a very determined Winnipeg Jets squad, but that's only 2 of those 5 losses they've taken in their last 10 games. They had some disappointment on the West Coast when they went and played Vancouver just before heading home to play us. So I mean, it's a rough time to be Toronto, I guess, and a special focus is being paid to the coach, as you said. But I don't think it's time in Toronto to panic just yet. You still, when you look at that roster, you have a lot of depth and a lot of experience on your team. So take that experience, let those guys lead the younger guys back from the brink of that abyss. Don't let them fall into that Toronto media crap storm that tends to happen when they lose a couple of games, because Toronto media and Montreal media are real bad for jumping on their squad when they're having a little bit of a slump and turning that little bit of a slump into a giant big deal, making a mountain out of a molehill. And that can play with players' minds. So hopefully the Toronto Maple Leafs can avoid that. Kudos to the Jets, because they earned every single second of that possession time, every single goal they scored, they earned. And I was very impressed by their play last night. Again, there was a little bit of that second period you would like to see them have a do-over on, but they ended up with the W, and that's what matters. And they're going to look at that and say, how do we avoid those little meltdowns? Because other than that, they played a phenomenal game.
They certainly did play a phenomenal game. And you said, they ran into a determined Winnipeg Jets squad yesterday, and that's exactly the only way that you can really, bring this thing to full circle, right? The Jets really played last night that they did not want to lose. They did not want to come back home without the 2 points from this particular game, and beating a really good team, making a statement. And, they're really putting a stamp on, who they are in this league, and, who they are right now in this season, right? And everything's moving so quickly. It's almost like there's a game like every second night. And like you said, we agreed upon this, it's almost like a baseball schedule right now. And it's like, it's moving very quickly for what? Was it a 56 game season or 58?
56 game season this year.
Yeah. So,
moving fast.
Yeah.
But I also want to point out, the Toronto Maple Leafs play again tonight. So they're on a back-to-back. They played us last night at home. They play in Ottawa tonight, and then they don't play for 4 nights. A rare one game because they're in Ontario, so they have that one game against Ottawa, and then 4 nights off, and then they go to Calgary for 2 games, have 4 nights off, or sorry, they play at home against Calgary, so they don't leave Ontario. So they play the 3 against us. They play Ottawa once, 4 days off, 2 games at home against Calgary, 4 days off again, and then they play Ottawa again in Ottawa before finishing out against 2 in Edmonton, and then 2 at home against Edmonton, and then they finally come over here to see us. So just absolutely a crazy way that schedule worked out. 4 days off, 2 games, and then 4 days off again. I mean, you look at the Jets schedule, they barely have any nights off. There was one block where they had 2 days off. Other than that, they play every other day, or back-to-back. This entire month so just to go through real quick, the Jets schedule, 2 day off, 1 day off, 1 day off, 2 days off. 2 days off once. Then it's game off, literally till we have 2 back-to-backs this month left. We don't have any of this 4 days off BS. I mean, what is going on there in the scheduling? I don't know. Obviously, they're trying to make it so the least amount of traveling has to happen, but it's a pretty breezy month for Toronto, and they don't want to give up more points like they did against Winnipeg right now, because they don't have a lot of points in March to give away. They need every point that they can get in March. Tonight, you have to think that they're going to bounce back and take the freebie against Ottawa. Ottawa needs to get their poop in a group, to be child-friendly here. They need to get their stuff together, and it's got to happen quick. So if they can bounce back and get the win tonight, I think that'll alleviate a lot of the panic in Toronto, especially in the media side of things. Then they get 4 days off to sort themselves out. They get to play Calgary. They stack up well against Calgary. Calgary's a tough team to play against, but they do stack up well, and we'll see how all that plays out. What do you think that the Jets need to do now that because they're coming back home to play 2 against Montreal before heading off to Edmonton for a couple? So what do you think they have to do? Do they just play the same game? I really like the way that they played last night. What adjustments do you think they should make?
It's hard to it's really difficult for them to make any adjustments, because everything. I love what you said. It's a good problem to have with all these individuals on this team who are able to produce, goals and assists. It's a mixture of, different people every night for this Winnipeg Jets team. And I think whoever they put on the ice, I think can beat this Montreal team. I just think also with that 7-1 loss, they're going to have a little bit of a chip on their shoulders going into that game, especially being on home ice. They're like, okay, you know what, you guys really dethroned us in Montreal, so it's like, you're coming into our home ice here. So maybe I think the Jets are probably going to have a little bit more of a personal agenda for this one. But in the sense of like style of play and things like that, what they did against Toronto, what they did, to take the other game in Montreal is fine. To take other games, it's fine. Like, I don't think they need to change anything up. What do you think? Like, do you think they would have to?
I like what they're doing. I want to see, and I should have built a graphic with the lineup that I want to see. I would like to see Kopp play with Dubois and Ehlers. Kopp, Dubois, Ehlers. And I know everyone's going to go, Kyle Connor on the third line. But if you put Kyle Connor on the third line with Lowry and Appleton, that's the best third line in the NHL, I think.
You know what? When you put that to paper, exactly.
Like,
when you really point it out that way.
I think because then you can roll 3 lines like they're all your first line. It doesn't matter who's on the ice. You can play whoever you want. It doesn't matter. Yeah. And our fourth line isn't shabby either, because that still leaves Perreault, Lewis, and whoever you put there. I would say Thornton would be a good choice. Or Thompson. I mean, we don't have Thornton. He's on that losing Toronto team over there. But yeah, Thompson would be a good choice. Vesalainen could play there, but Perreault and Lewis, and whoever you choose to put there, Harkins, whoever plays there. I think that fourth line is awesome too. They could get 6-7 minutes each a game against anybody. So I think obviously Perreault wants to be on the higher lines. That's a no-brainer. But there's just, and again, we talk about the good problems to have. The Jets are just too deep. They have a really great first line who I think really, and I'm going to take flack for this, but I think their first line is really their second line. I think if you make Kopp, Ehlers, Dubois, that's your line. That's your top line right there. And then, you got Stastny, Wheeler, Scheifele. I think that's your second line. But they're never going to say that because Captain Wheels and Scheifele, they're never going to say that they're the second line. But I really think that that's sort of the spot that they're playing. But they're playing great hockey. It doesn't matter who you look at. They're really figuring it out. Paul Maurice is doing wonders. You lose to Toronto in Toronto, and immediately people are like, should we fire Pomo? But no, we should not fire Paul Maurice. The guy is doing wonders here in town, I think. Tell me I'm wrong.
I like the guy. He's very, whenever he explains something, we always praise him for that, right? It's just so to the core. It's just right to the depth, and you don't have any more questions after you ask him the first question because he just answers. He covers a lot of things that you would probably any follow-up questions. So he's just so well spoken with the game. He has such a good IQ, and like you said, he's doing wonders here in Winnipeg. And I don't think the community would like to see him go at all, and I don't think that that's a problem at all. No,
me neither. I thought throughout that game, the power play was a big deal. That was a big storyline for the game for me, and I thought Ehlers was, especially when that meltdown was happening for everyone. That after the Jets scored their first goal, before while Toronto was busy scoring a couple and setting panic into the hearts of Jets fans, I thought Ehlers was the one guy that didn't lose his cool. He didn't lose his edge. He still was doing the things he needed to do. He was doing the little things right, which is a stark contrast to a few games back where I thought that there was a game where Ehlers was the only discombobulated guy. Everyone else was sort of doing what they had to, and Ehlers was having an off night. So I thought last night Ehlers played 60 full minutes, and he's one of the only guys on the Jets roster that you can say 100% played really well from start to finish in that game. And Brossoit, I don't know why they played Brossoit. That was a weird choice to me, to be honest. That was odd. You have a back-to-back game coming up where you're at home against Montreal and then have to travel to play the next night in Edmonton. I would think that you would want to hold Brossoit off until that exchange. It was a weird choice. Maybe something was going on with Hellebuck. I'm uncertain, but that was weird to me. I really would have liked to see Hellebuck in that game, but Brossoit played very well. He did. That second goal was a little weaker than I would like to have seen it, but the Jets rallied and recovered. And let's talk about the shots on goal for a second, because when we looked at that stat, I'm sorry, but shots on goal, 32-22. Limiting Toronto to 22 shots is outrageous. I love it. It's one of my favorite things that happened in the game last night, and they played amazing D. And one of the comments I saw on Reddit was, how come the Jets don't play this kind of D in front of Hellebuck every night? And that's a very good question. Hellebuck sees more pucks than any goaltender in the NHL, I think. I would like to actually see the stats on the goalies' number of shots faced, because Hellebuck's got to be up there. The Jets allow, the last two games, 39 shots, 38 shots, and then last night to turn it around, Brossoit plays and all of a sudden 22 shots? What happened there? What adjustments did they make to play in front of a different goalie? That's odd to me, because we've talked before about their goaltending and how you can kind of play the same way in front of either one of them because they're both very good goalies. But they played a completely different defensive style last night in front of Brossoit. What happened there?
Maybe they wanted to just show that, they don't what am I trying to say here with that? It's like, I know that it doesn't look very good that they don't defend that way against Connor Hellebuck, but, it just shows that, they care about Brossois. I think they're just like, look, it doesn't matter like who's really in net. We're still gonna like defend the best way we can. And I guess they just like tried their best yesterday, and they just ended up having more on the offensive production side that could maybe eliminate from that, from people thinking about that. It's kind of like a tough thing to really analyze.
I would agree with you there, and I also want to point out the other two games in North Division action. Vancouver beating Edmonton 2-1, little bit of an upset if you ask me, and Calgary beating Montreal, which apparently is no surprise these days. Montreal has got some sorting out to do. We talk about it every single time we're on this show. Montreal needs to fix some things. They are not playing good hockey right now, and you want to see the North Division play good hockey because that's how you get the best out of your team, is by playing against the best and getting ready to play against some of these teams that are absolute powerhouses down south in Tampa Bay, Carolina, Florida. I can't believe I said Florida and talked about power teams. But honestly, that's a thing that's happening this year. So, I mean, there's no shortage of powerful teams down south that the Jets really need to be prepared for. And the better the competition is during the regular season, the more prepared they're going to be heading into the playoffs. And I would like to see them really, I mean, I think the Jets have a shot at it this year, and you can't say that every year. So, I mean, at the outset of every season, every team has a shot, but the Jets are playing really good hockey, 7-2-1 in their last 10. I'm impressed.
Oh, the Jets, of course, yeah, 7-2-10, and I'm thinking that in their last 10, they I really, like I said, 15-5 in their next 20, and the way that they're playing, it is achievable. And that overtime loss, if we could take that back, that's okay, because it could have went either way, and it's over and it's done with. The Jets are coming home to play Montreal now, and I think that they can continue on to this path with going 15-5 in the next 20.
Yeah, and I mean the Jets in Toronto took 5 out of 6 potential points. So that's really good. On this road trip, 5 games, they took 7 points. That's important. On a road trip, taking 7 points out of 10 home is a big deal. And I can't stress that enough. I mean, their home record this year, Winnipeg, or their road record, sorry, is 8-4-1. That's a really good road record, and 9-4-1 at home. So to the Jets, they don't care where they play, it seems. Whether it's home or away, their record is very similar, and they play the same game. And I think it also helps the Jets. What do you think? Does it help the Jets a lot that there's no fans in any other stadiums? Or do you think the Jets care?
I think it helps either. I think it helps both the teams. I think all teams are happy there are no fans. I know
Really?
It's a weird. Yeah, I think all teams, and they won't admit it. But
Well, why would you? That's your money, right? You can't admit it.
They can't admit that. But in all honesty, I think a lot of players are just like, oh man, like there's just they have nothing else to focus. I think it's easier for them to focus on the game without the fans. I think.
And that's, you know what? There's probably something to that as well. You might be right there. Yeah, who knows? Who knows? But okay, stepping out of the North Division for a second, let's look at the whole league and top 10 by points percentage, because again, the disparity in all the games played. I think most of the league is sort of caught up for games played. Dallas has only played 23 games, where Vancouver's played 31. So, I mean, there is that disparity still a little bit, but it isn't. I mean, the more games that get played, the less that's a factor. But all of a sudden, you're seeing a surging Pittsburgh make it onto the top 10. They haven't been on there yet this season for us. So they're just squeezing in the 10th spot there. A winning streak of 5, 7-3-0 in their last 10. So they're coming in hot. Minnesota is on a 3-game winning streak, just trying to hang on to the top 10 standing that they're holding right now. As far as points percentage are concerned, they're sitting in 11th overall if you look at just points earned. But as I keep saying, I prefer to look at it by points percentage, especially in this shortened season with all the disparity in games played. So Tampa Bay dominating the league still. not only are they first in points percentage, but because of Toronto's run-in with the Jets, they actually managed to take first overall, 40 points. Florida tied with them with 40 points, but with their points percentage, they're actually underneath Carolina. Carolina's a team possessed right now, winning 7 in a row. And speaking of teams possessed, I keep saying the New York Islanders are scary. They have 8 wins in a row. Washington following suit with 4. Give them a little bit and they'll get there. So the Islanders 9-0-1 in their last 10 is a ridiculous statistic. That's mind-bending. And I mean, after Tavares left, I mean, there was a lot of talk about who's going to take this Islanders team and move forward. And I guess the answer is there, because third in the league overall by points. They're sitting in 5th overall if you look at points percentage, which is like a feat in and of itself. And I don't know. When you look at this sheet here, there's the information you can get from this really, and the closer to the playoffs we get, the more important this sheet is. So, Mr. McKnight, what are you thinking of these stats? What here shocks you? What here makes the most sense? What's going on in your head when you look at this?
The Florida right there by points percentage, because it just puts everything into perspective about how quickly, you know, things can really change for you with just one loss and like one victory. How the Jets picked up that, what was it? You said 7 points.
Yeah,
7
in the last 7 of 10 on the road in the last 5 games.
Yeah, and then we saw Boston, who just also just fell out. And yeah, that Florida and that Carolina are still holding their own. You can't count Tampa Bay out because, you know, the defending Cup champions right now, or sorry, defending Lord Stanley champions right now. It's this North Division is just, I don't know, you're almost forgetting about the teams in the South as well that you're watching. But about the Islanders, yes, who's going to take over that team? It seems like Matthew Barzal is really starting to shine now. About him, though, do you think he's going to get exposed in the expansion draft when Seattle?
I'm not even ready to talk expansion draft yet. There's so much information that I have to take in to sort of figure all that out. And like you said, following those teams south of the border is, I mean, it's doable for sure. It's just you have to go out of your way for it. And I kind of like that. I kind of really like that we're seeing all this Canadian versus Canadian action. It's been wonderful this year. And while I don't think that that's going to last into the future seasons, I think we'll see a lot more Canada versus Canada. And the way that they reshuffle it when Seattle enters the fray, that's going to be very interesting, especially looking at the Jets and who we're going to lose, looking at teams like the Islanders. And, I mean, when you got a guy dominating like that, you have to think they're going to protect the guy, right? They're not going to let him go in an expansion draft. But then you look at the Jets and you're like, who do you expose? Do you expose Kopp? Do you expose Harkins? Do you expose
Appleton? Do you expose Logan Stanley? Do you expose many?
Yeah, you want to see. I want to see like the top 9 for the Jets. I want to see protected. I just don't. That's not possible. So, you know, and I don't want to be Paul Maurice or Shovel Dayoff trying to make those choices, because that's a hard call to make, because it's basically the lesser of two evils is what they're doing here. There's nobody in the Jets organization that they want to let go of. There's no one. They've worked very hard to put the group together that they have, and I think to pull that apart on Shovel Dayoff after having done all of that work would be an injustice. I think the amount of effort, time, money, planning, all of that, and then Seattle comes in and they just scoop a bunch of players out from under everybody. That's got to be a pain in the butt, especially a thorn in the side of owners after the Vegas draft, where Vegas immediately ran for the Cup. Year one, right, with a bunch of scraped together guys who I'm sure teams did not want to give up. And then those guys are turning around and turning them inside out, you know? So that's I don't know. You want to talk expansion draft? I'm not quite ready yet. There's a lot of question marks for me. And I know that there's a lot of planning and strategy going into it above and beyond what happened with the Vegas draft, because now, after having seen it happen once, teams are going to be a lot more prepared for what is coming and what's going to potentially gut part of your organization. So I don't know. It's a wild card for me right now. We'll see when we get there, I guess.
All right.
Anyway, all right. So let's thank our wonderful sponsors at Aquatech Pool, Spa, and Bath. We really appreciate them so much. That's really great of them. Don't forget that you can follow us on all of the social medias. We are available there. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, on YouTube. Do like and subscribe to these videos, please. It really helps us out. And I get a warm, fuzzy feeling every time I get a notification that somebody subscribed. So I really appreciate it. We do put a lot of time and effort into these episodes, and we want to hear from you. We want your say. So have your say. Call us on the WPG Sports line, 431-800-4555. I know everybody sees the 431 and they go, ew, 431. But that's how the world works these days. So please give us a call, leave us a message. We will use, obviously, if you keep the swearing off of it, we will use those during future episodes of the show to talk about your Jets, your Bombers, and your Valor FC. Speaking of, I wore this jersey today, my Valor FC jersey. The Winnipeg Football Club has struck a deal with a different beer provider this year. So and I think one of the stipulations is rumored to be that they can have local taps at the stadium. One or two, or there's a certain number they would be allowed, obviously. But outside of just the mainstream macro brews. So if you're a craft beer fan and a Bombers fan or a Valor fan or a fan of all of the above, then the next season could be a pretty good one for you. And I'm very excited for it myself. I'm a big fan of local breweries. I'm even wearing a Torque Brewing hat right now, as a matter of fact. Torque Brewing Company. So let us know what you think of that. That's something we can talk about on the show as well. So for the WPG magazine and the LZ Sports Show, I am Mark Adam. And for my partner in crime over there holding up the Valor towel for Keith McKnight, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time in the LZ.